What you're about to hear is not a what if, it's not some story from the past. This is a high-stakes crisis happening right now, in March 2026. It all started with a single explosion, and it has now spiraled into a standoff that could honestly plunge Europe into total chaos. And there's no better example of that than the Druzhba pipeline. It was built by the Soviet Union, and its name literally means friendship. For 60 years, it was basically an umbilical cord, pumping Russian oil straight into the heart of Europe. It was supposed to be a symbol of everyone depending on each other. But today, that friendship is dead. It's been replaced by a cold, calculated hostage crisis. And the ransom? 90 billion euros. But this is way more than just some pipeline squabble. It's a crisis that's threatening to rip the European Union apart from the inside. And believe me, the story takes some absolutely shocking turns. We're talking direct threats, seized money, the whole 9 yards. Stay till the end because some shocking things I'm going to reveal in this explainer. Let's get back to it.
So to really understand how we got to the edge of this cliff, we need to break down the chain of events step by step. We're going to look at the incident that kicked this all off, the massive financial leverage that's being used, the shocking threats, and the absolutely bizarre scramble to try and stop it all. Okay, let's dive in.
What we're witnessing here is a dangerous game of chicken between two leaders. And the thing is, both of them are pushed into a corner, with the stability of an entire continent just hanging in the balance. So on one side, you've got Hungary's Viktor Orban. They call him the Maverick of Budapest. He's staring down a tough election, and frankly, he needs a big win for his own political survival. And on the other side, Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky, a president leading a nation that's fighting for its very existence and is now completely dependent on that Western cash. Their goals couldn't be more different, and right now, neither one of them can afford to back down. So how on earth did it get this bad, this fast? Well, to really get today's crisis, we have to rewind the clock just a few weeks, to the night of January 27th. So, in the dead of night, Russian drones slam into a critical pumping station on that Druzhba pipeline, but on Ukrainian soil. The oil flow to Hungary and Slovakia just stops, dead. But here's where it gets weird. Within hours, the Hungarian foreign minister isn't blaming Russia for the attack. No, he's on camera accusing Ukraine of blackmail. This just lit the fuse for this bizarre war of words, with both sides dropping satellite pics and technical data trying to prove their case. Budapest's story is that the damage is minor and that Ukraine is just using this as an excuse to cut off Russian energy for good. Kyiv's response is pretty simple. Look, we can't send our repair crews out there to fix destroyed electronics while Russian missiles are flying overhead. And this right here perfectly illustrates the complete breakdown of trust. I mean, is the pipeline broken or is the relationship? At this point, it's definitely both. With the blame game going nowhere, Viktor Orban decided it was time to make his first big countermove. He figured if he couldn't get his oil, then Ukraine wasn't going to get its fuel. And that decision, it set the stage for something much, much bigger. So Hungary officially stops all shipments of refined diesel and gasoline to Ukraine. And here's the crazy irony. That diesel, the stuff that's essential for Ukraine's tanks and trucks, it's refined in Hungarian plants, from the very same Russian crude that used to flow through the Druzhba pipeline. You see, Orban's polls are sliding ahead of an April 12th election, and he's been pretty open about needing a victory. This diesel blockade, that was his first shot. But cutting off fuel was just the beginning. That was just the opening act. Orban had a much bigger, much more powerful weapon in his back pocket, a weapon that could literally cripple the entire Ukrainian state. 90 billion euros. I mean, just let that number sink in. This isn't some abstract number on a spreadsheet. This is the European Union's lifeline to Ukraine. It's what pays for soldiers, it rebuilds cities, it keeps the lights on in Kyiv. It is everything. And Viktor Orban, using his veto power as an EU member, has put a freeze on the entire package. The message to Brussels and Kyiv is brutally simple. If my country doesn't get its Russian oil, your country doesn't get its European money. He has, in effect, taken Ukraine's entire economy hostage. Okay, this is where the story takes a dark and frankly shocking turn. In just the last 24 hours, this diplomatic crisis has exploded into direct threats and actions that feel like they're ripped straight out of a spy movie. And it all began with President Zelensky's response. During a press conference, a clearly furious Zelensky issued this thinly veiled warning. Now, he never said Orban's name, but everybody in that room and around the world knew exactly who he meant. This was an unbelievable moment. The leader of a nation at war, suggesting his soldiers might pay a visit to the leader of a NATO country.
The reaction was, as you can imagine, explosive. Hungary's foreign ministry immediately called it a state-sponsored death threat. And Orban himself fired back with a chilling promise of his own: we will break the blockade by force. At the time, no one was quite sure what by force even meant. Well, that is, until a few hours ago when it became terrifyingly clear.
Ukraine's foreign minister, Andrei Sybiha, did not mince words. He came right out and accused the Hungarian government of committing an act of state terrorism.
So here's what we're hearing from multiple reports. A convoy with 7 employees from Ukraine's state-owned bank was intercepted while traveling through Hungary, and on board, a staggering amount of hard assets: $40 million in cash, 35 million euros in cash, and 9 kilograms of gold. Hungarian authorities seized everything and took the employees to a counter-terrorism facility. Right now, no one knows where they are. This, it seems, is what Orban meant by force.
So this crisis isn't just about Hungary and Ukraine anymore, not by a long shot. It's pulling in neighbors and allies, and it's squeezing both countries in this geopolitical vice.
See, Viktor Orban is not alone in this. Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico, who also needs that druzhba oil, has joined the blockade. Slovakia has now cut off emergency electricity exports to Ukraine, and Fico is publicly backing Orban's claim that the pipeline is actually fine. Together, they formed what some analysts are calling the Budapest-Bratislava Axis, a powerful pro-Russian bloc operating from inside NATO and the EU.
But this really shows just how desperate Orban's position is. He can't get his cheap oil from the east through druzhba. The only other option is the Adria pipeline, which comes up from Croatia in the south. But Croatia, seeing its chance, is now charging transit fees that are 3 times higher than the EU average. So Hungary is totally trapped. No oil from the east, and oil that's way too expensive from the south.
This whole mess has left the European Union in a completely impossible position. I mean, how do you solve a crisis this tangled, this personal, and this dangerous? Well, their proposed solution is almost unbelievable. Just let that sink in for a moment. Reports are saying that Brussels is so desperate to unblock that €90 billion aid package that it's actually thinking about using EU funds to repair the Russian-owned pipeline that's inside Ukraine. Why? To get Russian oil flowing again to Orban in Hungary so that he will finally release the EU money that Ukraine needs to defend itself from Russia. It is a geopolitical pretzel of pure madness.
And that brings us right to this very moment, to a crisis that is spiraling out of control with stakes that just could not possibly be higher for everyone involved.
So here is where we stand right now. Ukraine is hemorrhaging cash and its military is running low on fuel. Hungary is threatening more force and is holding Ukrainian bank employees somewhere. And the European Union, the very institution designed to prevent this kind of conflict, is watching its own members threaten each other as its unity just shatters in real time.
Which brings us to the final, unavoidable question. When does tough geopolitics cross a line? When a national leader uses a veto to get something for his country, that's statecraft. But when they seize another nation's money and make its citizens disappear, what do you call that? Is Orban justified in doing whatever it takes to protect his country's energy security? Or was Zelensky's threat a necessary wake-up call to an EU that wasn't listening? This isn't just about a pipeline anymore. This is a fundamental crisis of what Europe is and what it's going to become. This situation is changing by the hour. To stay on top of the latest developments, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.